Some of you may be aware of Boo McAfee's musical background and inventions. Some may even know of his wacky world record attempts. You may or may not know about his personal background, or that Boo's a self-inflicted disciple of Frank Lloyd Wright. Maybe, because this is the first time he has spoken publicly about what he calls his last mountain to climb. First, let's dive into a little personal backstory. Boo was born in Tampa, Florida in 1956. Florida is known as the Sunshine State. Well, the sun did not shine on Boo. By the time he was 10 months old, he had become a ward of the state of Florida due to severe child abuse. The sun did shine in the form of his loving biological grandparents, who came fiercely to his rescue. Boo's grandmother was the angel and his granddad the oak tree. At age 11, Boo found his first love in the form of a drum set. By 16, he had received his GED and was out on the road with a full-time professional band. By his early 20s, Boo had settled in Nashville and began a career of working with major recording and touring artists. By 25, things took a turn. He hit a downward spiral. His granddad had passed, he had gone through a divorce, and work slowed drastically. Boo needed to do something to prove his self-worth. He needed to do something impossible as a benchmark. He thought if he picked an impossible endeavor and was successful at that venture, then everything else would be easier by comparison. Being a drummer, Boo said, "Okay, I will play drums longer than anyone in the world, maybe even for a Guinness World Record." That sounded impossible. As a personal goal, he played drums for 738 hours for the Guinness World Record in 1981. This record became so dangerous that Guinness stopped it. Since his record, Guinness has reworked the rules where this attempt is much less dangerous. Back in 1975, Boo attended a trade show that would change not only his life, but the lives of many others. At the trade show, he went to see Barrett Deems, who was the drummer for Louis Armstrong, doing a clinic. Boo was an impressionable 19-year-old and wanted to see Mr. Deems because he billed himself as the world's fastest drummer. As he appeared on stage, he greeted the audience with, "Hello, folks. I'm the world's fastest drummer." Instantly, Boo heard, "Oh yeah, what machine did you use?" Boo turned to his left, and there stood the legendary Buddy Rich, the greatest drummer who ever lived. For the next 24 years, what machine drove McAfee crazy until in 1999 he developed what is now called Drumometer, the first machine to detect the speed of drummers' hands and feet. From the Drumometer grew a highly charged global competition called WFD for World's Fastest Drummer. WFD has been a global attraction for over 25 years now. As the Drumometer and WFD gained popularity, Boo and his wife Laura, a pianist and educator, decided to move outside of Nashville and follow their dream of establishing a working farm and educational co-op called Drumo Farm. Along the way, Boo had become what he likes to call a self-inflicted disciple of Frank Lloyd Wright. As he traveled around the country, McAfee was obsessed with seeing as many of Mr. Wright's buildings as possible within his touring schedule. Through this devotion and study of Mr. Wright's buildings, McAfee was developing some characteristics and architectural lines that he would like to use in a house for himself someday. In 1996, on a day off, Boo and a bandmate decided to visit Taliesin, Mr. Wright's home and school in Spring Green, Wisconsin. They arrived early, had breakfast at the Taliesin restaurant, then walked over to the bookstore next door. While looking through a 1910 German portfolio of Mr. Wright's works, Boo suddenly saw a house that looked like the house he had envisioned. As his eyes focused on the rendering, it sent shockwaves through his body. It said, "A dwelling for Mr. McAfee?" "Excuse me, was Boo seeing things?" He called his friend over and asked, "What does this say?" The friend replied, "Yes, sir. It says, 'A dwelling for Mr. McAfee.'" No way. Boo had to find out where this house was located. So they went over to see the president of the Frank Lloyd Wright Preservation and inquire as to the building location. She did not know, but after a couple of phone calls, the word was handed down that the dwelling for Mr. McAfee was never built. What? How could the dwelling for Mr. McAfee have never been built? Why? And who was this Mr. McAfee? Was he perhaps an ancestor of Boo McAfee? This shocking discovery presents a challenge. Is building this house possible? After decades of research into this masterpiece, Boo learns that it was designed in 1894 by Mr. Wright for James L. McAfee. Further study finds that Boo shares a common bloodline with James. Boo McAfee finds himself armed with answers and a call to build a dwelling for Mr. McAfee. This mission is appropriately called the McAfee Project. The McAfee Project consists of the Boo McAfee story, a biography for both print and film, the building of the McAfee House, a full documentary of the build, and supporting educational programs built around the connection between nature and art entitled Form Follows Truth. The full project, including biography, building, and documentary of the McAfee House, will be funded, owned, and stewarded by the nonprofit McAfee Foundation. The foundation is charged with the mission to continue this enduring vision for decades after the McAfees are gone. In closing, Boo and Laura would like to invite you to join the foundation on this amazing climb. Interested donors are encouraged to contact our fiscal partner, Allied Arts Foundation. Your donation is tax deductible. For more information on the McAfee Project, please visit the link in the video description.